Hello, 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 everybody. I'm Dr. Tawana Carter, and welcome to my Wednesday night live. If it's Wednesday night and it's 8:35 Eastern Time, 8:35 p.m. Eastern Time, I am right here doing a live, right? Now, tonight's live is a really good one. This is tips, right, for Black women to exit the survival mode in the workplace so that they can thrive. All right, because one of the things that we know when you are in survival mode, you do not thrive. That's not what we do when we're in survival brain, when we're anxiety brain, right? So I am going to be sure that we are live in all the other places we're supposed to be live. If you can hear me just fine, go ahead and drop one in the comments, right? And so, if this is your first time here and you don't know me, I'm Dr. Tawana Carter. As a career coach, I work with stressed, busy women executives, right? And who are plagued by imposter syndrome, by doubt, self criticism, right? And I work with them to alleviate the stress so they can find peace of mind and fully focus on excelling in their careers. And again, if you can hear me just fine, go ahead and drop a one in the comments for me. And I do want to welcome everybody. Some of you are seeing me on Facebook. Welcome. Some of you are seeing this on LinkedIn. You are welcome as well. You may be seeing this on Twitter or YouTube. You're all welcome as well. Those of you who are catching this on the replay, you're welcome as well. So if you're seeing this live, drop live in the chats for me, so I can see who is all on live. And if you want to, tell me where you're hopping on from, right? Even those of you that catch the replay, you can go ahead and drop replay in the comments and then let me know where you're hopping on from. I would greatly appreciate that, right? So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. And I like to say, go ahead and leave your comments, your suggestions, or your questions. Go ahead and leave that. And every so often, I'll peek over in that chat box, in the comments box, and try to answer your questions on air live. Even those of you who catch the replay, do leave your questions as well, because I always circle back and answer those questions, right? So, just a few statistics here, right? Um, the records show that since 1999, believe it or not, there have been a total of like 18 Black CEOs that have led Fortune 500 countries, right? And today, right now, this is update as of a few days ago, about 9% of the CEOs of Fortune 500 companies are women. This is a total of 46 women. Of the 46, only two are women of color. Yes, that's right. Only two women of color at this time are leading Fortune 500 companies, right? And here's the thing, 2022 is known as a year that a whole host of women exited corporate leadership. They left, right? And that's kind of on par with what we've been seeing since 1920. I'm sorry, in 2020 rather. In 2020, the first year of the pandemic, a grand total of 50% of all women of color expressed a desire to exit the corporate workplace. I don't want to do this anymore. I want out. Right? So by that we know that the corporate workspace it can be tough. It can be tough, right? It is really tough for 50% of women of color to say, I want to leave. Yeah, that says a lot about the workplace and where women are and some about what's going on, right? The thing is for women of color, for Black women have made advances in education at a higher rate than any other racial group or gender group. There are more women, Black women with college degrees, bachelor's plus than any other group in America. Okay? Even in spite of all that, they still deal with various types of discrimination, right? More higher incidences of sexual harassment, microaggressions, undercompensation, being paid less than what you were. And we all know the glass ceiling in the corporate workplace. And let's not forget the glass cliff, right? That's where women, all women, right, and minorities tend to be giving assignments, projects, leadership positions of companies that are either failing or on their way towards failing, and say, yes, now there you go, you fix that, fix that. So yes, that's the glass cliff. If you want to know more about the glass cliff, I'm gonna drop a link out there. I did do an article on that. I'm just gonna drop that out there for you, the glass cliff, so you can actually read a little bit more on that if you wanted to. So yeah, all those things women worry about, but the microaggressions, especially, that's women of color, that's Black women, right? Black women, Hispanic women, Asian women, all of that, the microaggressions that we put up with in the workplace, right? And then here's the thing, when women of color, especially Black women, when you're spending time, right, in unwelcoming corporate work environments, it really can lead substantially to higher fears and anxiety and negative thinking. And when you don't get the support from leadership, you know, in your organization, then you're prone to imposter syndrome, right? And self doubts. And then you start doing these statements to yourself like, who am I to think I can do this? They must have hired the wrong person. I must be a fraud. I know I'm a fraud. I don't belong here. Why did they hire me in the first place? I think I just got lucky. And that stuff starts to roll. It's kind of like a snowball, right? It starts to snowball. Even the Surgeon General has weighed in on the toxic effects of of stress on the job. And it's not just for Black women, for all people, right? And here's what the article said. It said working in disrespectful, uninclusive, overly competitive, unethical, and or abusive environments is hazardous to your health. That's what the Surgeon General said. Okay. So I did do a post on that one today a little bit earlier, and we're gonna drop that one there too. Yes, worst toxic work environments is hazardous to your health, right? So I'm gonna go ahead, if I can spell hazardous today. I spelled it earlier, should be able to do it now. Um, to your health. Okay. And you can go and read that article that I talked about there. So yeah, there is definitely there's science behind this, right? And so what I want to talk about today in particular is I want to talk about how Black women, I want to give you some tips of how to escape survival mode in the workplace so you can actually make the decisions that help you thrive. All right. And so here's the thing, when you have the effects of unfriendly work environments, and there's many, right? And some of us know these things, but sometimes when you're going through them, you don't always put two and two together to get four. So being in an unfriendly work environment means that Black women will spend more time in survival mode as they experience fear and anxiety and stress. And that's on top of the stress of just inherent in some jobs. Medical field, there's a lot of jobs that are extremely stressful. Nurse, doctor, respiratory therapist, those folks working in hospitals, right? Those jobs, there's a lot of stress just inherent in the job. Teachers, there's stress that is inherent to the job. So we're not even talking about that stress. We're talking about just being in an unfriendly, unwelcoming work environment, right? And then the more time that you spend in survival mode means that there's less time spent in thriving mode. Fear and anxiety can also cause the brain to pay more attention to only the negative consequences. Your brain almost stops looking for the better, for the good, and it starts searching for negative things only. As I coach my clients, when you have an overly anxious brain, your brain looks out and it looks for things to confirm that it's anxious. It's like confirmation bias, right? And so if you're always anxious and you're in an anxious workplace, you're not going to see your way through to survive, to thrive rather. You're always worried about surviving. Who's after me? Who's going to get me? Right. And it just keeps going on and on. Okay. So, and then because of that, you get caught up in worst casing everything, and you miss out on vital cues and conversations in the workplace that's important, right? Yeah, your supervisor, your co-workers may be committing acts of microaggressions in the workplace. But when you're overly anxious because you're anxious, you've been surviving, your survival's on, you're like, is that as bad as I think it is? Should I say something about that? Or, well, who should I report it to? Or, well, maybe I should just let that slide. I don't want to ruffle any feathers. Let's just all get along here, right? I don't want to look like a troublemaker. I don't want to look at the angry black woman either, right? What if it was my imagination? What if that wasn't really, really as bad as it sounded like it was? Then, if it wasn't your imagination, how angry should you be? Right? Should you be angry at all? Or should you just let that slide? Who's on your side anyway? Anybody you can talk to? Are there low key racists in the work environment? Who's my ally? It can be absolutely exhausting trying to figure out all day long, on a daily basis, week in and week out, month in and month out, what is the best way to move forward? Every day when you're trying to engage in these unfriendly environments. It's just exhausting, right? And I've heard a lot of folks say out on LinkedIn that some days it's just exhausting being a black woman in the workplace. It's exhausting. I also often hear friends say, some days I just want to wake up in the morning and just be a woman. Not a black woman, not a Hispanic woman, not an Asian woman, just a woman and not worry about it. But we persevere, right? We persevere because it's the workplace, and that's what we do. And that's why I'm doing this live today to show you how to get over this, to move out of that survival zone, right? Living with this kind of fear and anxiety and distress, because stress is really short for distress, right? It takes a daily toll on the mind and the body. As well, when our survival brain is engaged, we're less apt to make the best career decisions, life decisions that move us forward. In other words, your decision making is actually short circuited. And that is why we don't always thrive in the workplace like we need to. So here's how fear, anxiety, and distress or stress short circuits your overall decision making skills, right? So there are three ways. Number one, calculating options. You don't calculate options like you need to because your brain is in survival mode. It's in anxiety mode. It's scaling, it's surveillancing, it's surveillancing everything going on around you. How should I react? Do I need to take cover? Do I need to? That's what it's doing all the time. So you're not calculating options. So you have a reduced ability to make better decisions, right? Which means that you're not going to be looking at the best options. And you're not always going to be looking at the best solutions. You tend to do what's called binary choices. You look at everything as a binary choice, which limits the ability to make better choices. Instead of looking at the range of multiple solutions available that may fit a situation, we limit ourselves when we're in survival brain. In other words, everything is black or white. It's up or down. It's left or right. It's yes or no. You don't look at the full range of solutions or options out there because you're living in a survival brain. And the brain is not made to look at all the options. It's like yes, no, survive, yes, die, no. That's all you do. And you short circuit yourself, right? Decision making is one of the things that gets you to a better position in your career. Number two, I want to make sure I got some said I would go out and look at my comments. Again, don't hesitate to place your comments out there, ladies and gentlemen, because I know I have guys that support me as well. And thank you for that. Right. So, number two, the problem of why living in survival mode is problematic. It is because number two, you don't do critical problem solving. You are more prone to pick apart the options. So rather than, looking at definitive considerations and deliberations that are necessary for great business decisions, great personal decisions, right? And even financial decisions. Conversely, you can also become so caught up in considering every single option that there is. You get caught up in they say you can't see the trees for the forest. You get caught up in the trees. You get caught up in every single detail of every single thing. If there are three options, you go past the three options, you look at all the different things that could happen with those options. Then you get caught up in what can go wrong, right? So you don't step back, right? And look at the problem critically because you're down in the weeds looking at the details. And you get bogged down in decision. And with some you may have heard of this called analysis paralysis. Anybody heard of that? analysis paralysis. That is when you're overthinking, and it can make you feel so overwhelmed because if there are three choices, you look at, okay, this could go wrong, that could go wrong, that. And for everything that you say, let's say five things can go wrong, then you jump on all the details of how that could go wrong. And then all of those 10 things you jump, so you can see you become bogged down in indecision, right? And indecision, it doesn't help with problem solving. It doesn't help with calculating the right options that you can take. And also, it interferes with number three, risk taking, right? So, when your brain function is constrained, it reduces your ability to take risks. Why are risks important? Calculated risks are important. They result in you taking the stretch assignments that will grow your career, taking a chance to speak up in a meeting, put your ideas out there, take on new projects, take a new class, learn something new. If you're always, and what happens is when your brain is constrained because of fear and stress and distress, anxiety, you reduce everything to what's the safe choice. Everything is just what's the safest choice, not the best, the safest. But if you always choose the safest options, you miss out on the thrill of pursuing these career opportunities that will move you forward. Sometimes it will bounce you forward because they were such a great idea to pursue, right? You miss out again on the opportunities that stretch your skills, that sharpen your abilities. And those things are what sets you up for the next promotion, right? If you're always playing safe in a little box, you don't take on stretch careers. And this is what holds women back, specifically Black women, because we're so used to surviving in the workplace, we don't do these things well, right? We're surviving, we're not thriving. When you take calculated risk, you're thriving, right? When you look at the best options for you to move forward, thriving, right? When you're using critical thinking, critical problem solving, thriving. Otherwise, you stay stuck in. And I've read an article, wrote an article this week um, about the three mistakes that women take, and one of those is like just just playing inside of the box. But part of the reason is because anxiety, distress, right? Microaggressions, they cause your brain not to be able to function like you need to, right? Some Black women have been told they're not good as a leader, or you're not decisive enough. You don't even consider all the options. You're not trusting, you're not friendly, and you don't take stretch assignments. Well, here's the thing: when you're in survival mode because of fear, anxiety, stress, distress due to microaggressions and feeling isolated and unfair expectations, yeah. Sometimes caused by the very people you're depending on to lead you, guide you, and work with you and be equitable and be fair. Seems like a catch 22 for these same people to tell you you're not good enough, you're not decisive enough. You think too small. It's like a catch 22. It's like being on a hamster wheel, right? And so here are my takes on to get you off the hamster wheel, to get you to a place where you're coming out of survival mode and you're going into thrive mode, right? And this will allow your brain capacity to make the best decisions for your life and your career. So here are my suggestions, right? I've got a few of them, got seven. So I got seven. All right. So here are my suggestions to take care of yourself as well as your career and move on out of survival mode into thrive mode. Document, document, document. It's easy to think that this isn't really happening to me, or it's just my fault. I must be doing something wrong, or I guess I wasn't prepared for the role. Writing things down creates a record, and it's on paper, and it makes it real. It gets it out of your head where you can just reason away stuff when it's in your head. Well, when it's on that paper, you can actually look out and say, this is real. Yeah, I do see what I see. I do see what I see. I am experiencing what I'm experiencing. Then if you talk with other folks, then you start to see, oh, they see the same thing that I do, right? Because otherwise you will blame yourself for everything and you don't take any movement to do better, right? And negative thoughts will kick in, and then it just makes it worse. Number two, communicate to your supervisor what you're observing and how it makes you feel, okay? And how your work can be even better with possible solutions to correct the issue, right? In other words, never tell your supervisor, here's a problem, without a solution. always, if you're going to him, her with the problem, here's a solution. In fact, here are several options because now you can do that when you get out of survival mode, right? Number three, establish support circles, networks, very important because anxiety makes you feel isolated, depression makes you feel isolated, and the more you feel isolated, the more you draw in, and things just look worse. So, I love to say in your workplace, but sometimes, you're not going to always get that support networking in your workplace, especially if you're the only woman of color and no allies are present, right? So don't hesitate to go outside of your workplace, outside of your organization. There are many places, right, where you can do that. And it's more important to build those support networks when you are the only woman of color in the workplace, right? While taking time to build allies in the workplace, you may be surprised at how many allies you do have, right? But if you can't find any in the workplace, look outside. Go outside and look, right? So I just want to take a look over here. Um, I got somebody, yeah, they're talking about a site or something. Not sure what's going on there. So we're gonna move right on with this. So number four, find a sponsor, right? Sponsors typically you want them to be someone at your job, but if it's not possible, of course, find a sponsor. Period.com, right? Do spend time developing relationships so that you can eventually find a sponsor. Here's what I hear when I talk to Black women specifically. The stress and the anxiety have just like worked their last nerve. You know what? This is my job. I'm coming here, I'm doing my job, and I'm going home. I'm not speaking to you other than the job. I don't want to socialize with you. I don't want to see you. I don't want to say anything else to you, but do the job so I can go home and you can leave me alone. I get that a lot, right? I get that a lot. The thing is if that's the only thing you do on job after job after job, you're not building that network. You need to build a network. Even if you're not building it on the job, build it somewhere else. But do build the network, right? Because one of the reasons to say get a sponsor is your sponsor is advocating for you in the room when you're not there. But if you've not met anybody, you've never networked anybody because you've just doing my job and I'm going home, I don't want anything else out of you. You miss out on opportunities for people to be your sponsor. And sometimes you'd be surprised who is willing to be your sponsor, but you've got to put yourself out there and do the networking first. Okay? Because in most cases, getting promoted to executive levels without a sponsor to advocate you it is extremely tough uphill battle. Okay? So there you have it. Number five, and we got two more to go, right? Um, I've had this one up, so let me put. All right, want to be sure that you guys get the information on the glass cliff if you haven't gotten it already. Get a mentor or two. I've had two mentors at a time, right? Get a mentor or two. It's ideal to have a mentor inside of your organization, but it isn't necessary. You can have a mentor within your industry, but that isn't necessary either, right? And some women do find it helpful to have two, one inside the organizations and organization rather, and one outside. But you can have two inside or two outside. It doesn't matter, right? Just make sure that you're clicking with your mentor and your mentor is clicking with you. Because mentorship should be a trusting relationship that guides you and provides you the knowledge and experience that's best for you in the job that you're in and looking forward to that career, right? And it's possible for a mentorship to develop and the mentor can go on to become your sponsor. That happens a lot. It doesn't always happen, but it is possible. Okay. And number six, tip, hire a coach, hire a therapist. You can have both simultaneously, right? Because if stress, distress, anxiety, and depression is keeping you up at night, you're not sleeping, you're having stomach cramps, you're having all those things, it may be time for you to hire a therapist, right? Both therapists and a coach will support you outside of your network because it takes a village, right? The coach will assist you with accountability, problem solving, and goal attainment. That therapist will help you maintain balance in your mental and emotional health. So it's not either coach or therapist, is both and, right? And many times your physical and spiritual health as well, a coach can help with that, and so can a therapist, right? So, number 7, give yourself some TLC, some tender loving care. Good health consists of your mental health, your emotional health, your physical health, and your spiritual health. If one of those falters while you're living in survival mode, you as a person suffer. You will suffer. So will the people in your family. So will the people who love you, right? So it is important for you to take care of yourself. It's important to be aware that over time, when situations are continuously triggering, are triggering for Black women in the workplace, you have this increase in cortisol level, right? Increases weight gain, you feel sluggish, right? So do include exercising in there. Now, if you got the time to spend an hour at the gym 4 or 5, 6 times a week, great. If not, find what fits your schedule, right? That was one of the things that I did when I decided to go full-time entrepreneurship is I made exercise. I made, reading my Bible, praying, and exercise was a part of my day, and eating, because I didn't do that when I was working for other people very well. So exercise is important. Yes, it produces endorphins, it can reduce stress, it can reduce depression, and it just makes you overall healthier, right? So think of, here's the thing. Think of yourself as a product, right? And as with any product, the key is to invest in the product, care for it, nurture it, protect it against hazards and threats. If you do this well, as with all things, your career will take care of itself. But you, right? You will need to live life thriving instead of just surviving to have a successful career. All right. And so if you're listening to this and this really resonated with you, and you have tried, many of the things on the list, but it hasn't quite helped you yet, go ahead and reach out to me. Let me change my banner up there so you can see. I do provide a 15-minute career consultation, right? It's a career solution call. And, I'm not selling you anything because it's 15 minutes, right? And really, it's a chance for you to come and take care of you. It's where we'll spend time talking about your goals, and we'll talk about where you are, and I share with you what I do. And if I'm absolutely certain that I can help you, I'll get you started with the next step. And that next step is a 45 to 60-minute consultation, just where we do a deep dive to see how I can help you, right? So let's see if I got the right one here. Let's go back to comments, hide the current comments. Yes, there you go. The 15-minute career solution call. There it is up on the banner. You can call me. You can also just drop Thrive in the comments. Either way, I'll reach out to you, get you set up for that 15-minute career solution call so you can start the next year thriving. You don't have to survive all of 2023. Start out thriving. All right. So thank you for hanging in there with me all the way to the end. And be sure to be back here next Wednesday, same bad time, 8:35 p.m. Eastern Time, 7:35 Central, and 5:35 Pacific Standard Time, right? When I'll be discussing Want a Better Career, 5 tips to help you succeed in 2023. Let's walk into 2023 thriving, right? It's what it's all about, thriving, making the best decisions, and living your best life. Thank you for joining me, ladies and gentlemen. I will see you next Wednesday. Bye bye.